Apa khabar semua? Minta-minta sihat selalu. I am Nyonya Aniling Guathui, moderator for this session. Please take note that this Zoom is being recorded. I would also like to introduce Nyonya Celia Yo, who is technically managing our Zoom session. Sebelum ni, gua mau cerita sikit. Hari tu, gua punya rumah sebelah tanya gua, "Aunty, uncle sama aunty orang Cina, tapi apa saya cakap Melayu?" Cakap Melayu lain daripada kita. Tak sama. "Oh, adik, aunty sama uncle babanyonya dari Melaka. Inilah cara kita orang cakap. Cakapan kita orang tak pandai cakap Cina." Oh, begitu rupanya. We are honored to have our guest speaker, Baba Dr. David Neo Hock Jin, who will be presenting his topic, Mari Cakap Baba Malay Patois. Dr. David Neo Hock Jin is a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Film, Theatre and Animation at University Technology Mara. He has been researching Peranakan culture for many years now. He is a descendant of the Tan Tock Seng, and much of his interest and knowledge about the tradition, heritage, and culture of the Peranakans have come from his maternal and paternal extended Peranakan families. He initiated the establishment of the first Peranakan Association in Australia, Melbourne, and was his founding secretary. Apart from being an academic, Baba David is also a great cook, having kept many of the original recipes of traditional Nyonya cuisine, and I hear he makes really sumptuous bakwan goreng. Cakap pasal makan, hari tu Cak Gome, Celia sama gua, untung sekali. Kita dapat coba masakan Baba, udang belimbing sama jantung pisang masak lemak. Sedap sekali. First time dapat makan jantung pisang masak lemak. Without further ado, let us welcome Baba David Neo to share his presentation.
Kamsia manya Nyonya Annie. It's like for your very kind introduction. Yeah, it's like hello everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Yeah, so selamat datang semua. Okay, it's like I will start. I have to share the screen. Is it? Okay. Okay. Can all of you see the slide? Boleh ya? Okay. Okay, good. So let's so I'm just gonna kind of give a general overview, right, about the language. Yeah. So we'll sort of like move on to different things. Kenapa kau tak boleh move kau punya slide pula? How come?
Can you stop and get out again?
Really, I can't move my slide.
Can you stop and get out again? Get out and reshare.
Like leave the.
No, just
leave
sharing.
this chat and leave the whole thing and.
No, just stop sharing. Yeah, okay. Can you open up your PowerPoint first? Just open your PowerPoint first. And then you go back to Zoom and share.
Put my PowerPoint and then go to Zoom. Yeah.
Sorry guys, we just need to get started and then we'll be off.
Yeah, sorry, it's like, you know, I am not your computer whiz here, so
Ken?
boleh nampak?
Yeah, we can see now.
Going to
It's up now.
okay. Okay, good. Yeah, so semua boleh nampak.
Yeah, can you move your screen? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yep, let's go.
Okay, so let's get started. It's like, okay, don't get too alarmed with the whole term of bastardize. Yeah, it's a technical term that we use for sort of like adulteration or creolization of certain language. So yeah, so some people sort of like talk about our Baba Malay as a form of bastardized Bazar Malay. Yeah, so just to share a little bit about my colleagues, it's like, when I was sort of like using the word bastardized in our group chat at work, somebody was saying, terkejut saya. It's like, so yeah, so don't be too alarmed with that word. It's just a technical term. Now the language or Baba Malay is actually a spoken language. Yeah, so it's just used every day. It's not really a formal language, and that's why you sort of like see yeah, how it is really with simple grammar. Yeah. And it's usually, well, it's a traditional language of the book. Yeah, William Gui has basically sort of like said that, and it is really kind of yeah, domestic language used informally by the Peranakans. Yeah, it's also a Rojak language. Yeah, it's very mixed with obviously Hokkien, because mostly Peranakans were Hokkiens, English, Portuguese, and Dutch. Yeah, so it's like, with these days, English, I guess, is really quite a strong component, because yeah, we mostly, I think, speak our Patois these days, like, half Patois and half English, basically. We have Portuguese words that we have basically adopted. Yeah, so things like almari, which is cupboard, kereta for car, nanas, we would say nane. Yeah. So those are your Portuguese words, and then we also have Dutch words like alogy, gaji, which alogy for, I guess, clocks and watches. Yeah, gaji for your wage, salary. Rokok for cigarettes are Dutch words. So you find that it's really quite a hybrid language. Yeah, that borrows a lot from different languages and different cultures. Okay, and as we go along, I think you'll sort of like see how more champo and how more hybrid the language is. So it has very simple grammar order, yeah, and no asphyxiation. Okay, and this is the thing about Baba Malay. It's like you find that with Malay there is asphyxiation. So you have your prefixes and your suffixes that actually changes the word. Yeah, to nouns and whatever else. But when we use it in Baba Malay, we do not use the asphyxiation at all. Yeah, so my second language nightmare in Singapore was, yeah, my parents made me do Mandarin in primary school, right? So when it came to PSLE, it was that I failed my Mandarin because I didn't have, the basics, or we didn't basically speak Mandarin at home, right? And then I begged basically to do Malay in secondary school, and I failed as well because I didn't have the basics. And all this asphyxiation impohan was totally alien to me, where you would change the word, right? So I'm just going like, what is impohan? That's like, and how you change the words from your prefixes and your suffixes, like, totally becomes something else. So this is something that we don't do in Baba Malay. Yeah. Some people also say that it's coarse, yeah, where we use words like teriak and cekik. And this is a the thing you have to sort of like realize about the language is that it is basically Bahasa Melayu, right? It's basically sort of like Bahasa Malay, and hence it's basic, it's simple, and it would also be coarse at the same time. Yeah, it's like, you know, this is what it is. And to also sort of like point out, W.G. Shilabere, who I guess in the 1900s was kind of like the authority and the scholarly voice to things Malay or the Malay world at that time, actually noted and observed that the Peranakans would call formal Malay as Melayu Hutan. Yeah, it's like, you know, which is quite interesting to me, because it sort of like shows where they are, you know, in terms of their status and where they are in society, where they could actually sort of like disparagingly, you know, describe the Malay language as Melayu Hutan, when it has a longer history, when it is more sophisticated than our Baba Malay. Yeah, but it's like, you know, to the Peranakans, it was Melayu Hutan. So that's really quite interesting. And I mean, when you want to think about also the court language that would have developed with the Malays as well, yeah, that would have been, you know, quite sophisticated, right? But yeah, but to the Peranakans, it was Melayu Hutan. So that's, you know, I think quite interesting. And I think all this really kind of like shows you, you know, what the culture is like, and how the culture also thinks. Yeah. Okay, so it has been said that the language is currently listed as an endangered language. Yeah, Nala Lee, who I think did her PhD on the Baba Patois, actually estimates that there's only about 1,000 speakers, fluent speakers in Malacca and in Singapore. So in total, about just 2,000 speakers left. Yeah, which I think is really quite alarming and scary. Yeah, so where is our language gonna just disappear in soon? You know, should we be doing something about this? Yeah. So that begs the whole question of our intergenerational transmission of this language. Yeah. So, you know, I have that there, and I think maybe we can pick up, you know, this this discussion a bit later at the end, yeah, to see sort of like what you guys think about how we are transmitting it to our younger generation, or yeah, or if you think that, you know, it is really a dying language, and what we can do about it. Okay, so I also have at the bottom of that slide, there, that well, the question: are we a generation too late in beginning to interact in Baba Malay? Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next slide, a little bit of history. So our forefathers were mainly Chinese immigrants from Phuket, yeah, who married local women, and basically that's sort of like how the culture came about, and that explains the mispronunciation. Yeah, Malay was not their mother tongue, so they tended to mispronounce words. There was also in my reading, there was also some postulations about possible dialects that were also present in this area that might have disappeared, that maybe sort of like brought on certain pronunciation in terms of like our pelat or our peculiarities, like air at the end instead of the air sound, instead of your like kapal, it's kape instead of kapal, or selue instead of selua that we say. So these might have been sort of like influenced by other dialects, and there are also similarities with this with like the Kelantanese as well. So yeah, so I think, you know, there might be patterns and connections which requires really further research in terms of like what these connections or similar patterns may have, you know, come about, or is it, you know, because they're just nicer sounding sounds that were just seen as polite. Yeah. We also have very strong influence from Indonesia. Yeah, it's like, you know, and I think yeah, Annie has some examples, right? What are some of the Indonesian words, yeah, Annie, that we
Oh,
um
yeah.
that you
Yeah,
observed?
David. Like we say kuping, but Malay they say telinga. In English is the ear. Then after that is kepiting is ketam. Then ranjang is the tilam, katil. And after that is cawan. We call cangkir, but Malay they say cawan. So the
Yes, it's like, so
yeah,
this is
David.
the thing. I think when I was a few years ago, I was sort of teaching teaching some Malay kids, actually really young kids, and I used the word ranjang, and they didn't understand me. It was like, and it took me a while to realize that they were actually saying, or the Malays actually say katil instead of ranjang. Yeah, so all this could be, I think all this is also Baku Melayu, right? It's like, which comes from Indonesia as well. So this is the lingua franca that was created by the Chinese. Yeah, and what's interesting is that this was adopted by the Chiti Melaka and the Serani community or the Eurasian community in Laka as well. Right, so an anecdote that I have with the Chiti Melakas when I was doing research with them, and I was attending their Bogi festival. So this is Pongal and where they would actually be doing their nasi susu, right? So they'll be boiling their susu in their clay pots, and they had to actually get the susu to boil, overflow out of the pot first before they actually cook the rice. And of course, that is significant, right? It's like, so I was, trying to understand what was the significance of that. And I was asking, the chiti aunties, it's like, what's the meaning of this? And so this chiti auntie was saying to me, she says, ini macam what lah? It's like, so I was so tickled by that because I was going like, this Indian lady who was, explaining to me in Baba Malay, it's like fluent Baba Malay, and then using a Hokkien word as well. Yeah, so this is very much sort of like, the whole language and how comfortable Malaccans pretty much are in speaking this lingo or this patois. Yeah. So it's largely a spoken language, and I think the product of is really a product of the historical development in this part of the world. Yeah. So it's sort of like understanding it, I think you can sort of like see the developments and the history of the Strait settlements. Yeah. Okay. So strong cultural Chinese ties. Yeah. It's yes. Did you have a question?
David, speaking about the Baba Malay spoken language, gua sama adik-beradik dah belajar cakap Baba Malay dari kecil lagi. Mama, grandpa selalu cakap Baba Malay sama kita tau. Orang sampai sekarang pun kita boleh ingat. Sekarang pun gua hari-hari cakap sama baba gua, laki gua. Orang macam cakap practice makes perfect. Okay, over to you, David.
Yalah, I mean that's how we learn, right? It's like, I mean, yeah, growing up, all our relatives or basically grandparents, it's like, mama, akong and all that, semua cakap Melayu, right? It's like, yeah, some of them would have known English, but they wouldn't speak to us in English, right? So it was only my parents that, yeah, in fact, it was only my dad that I spoke English with. Mom selalu cakap Melayu. Like, and then mom's side was more into Melayu. It's like it was dad's side that was a little bit more Anglophile. Yeah, so yeah, growing up it was just basically just Baba Malay. So which is why I guess even after being away for like 2.5 decades, coming back, it was not a problem for me to to remember all this again. Yeah, how in terms of like how to speak the language. Yeah, so the language of Baba Malay basically uses Chinese when there is when there's a lack in Malay language or culture. Yeah, so especially when it comes to religion and custom and kinship, like kinship particularly. It's like, how we greet our relatives. Yeah, the minute we sort of like say King Kim, we sort of like know how that person is related to you. Yeah, married into the family or whatever. It's like yeah, that is that's sort of like how we recognize well, someone when someone is sort of like greeting somebody. Yeah, so that is something that we basically sort of like hang on to, yeah, very much in our culture. The other thing is Rumah Abu, right? The whole idea of Rumah Abu, which is again a very Peranakan concept. It's like, because when you talk about Rumah Abu to the Malays, yeah, they would not be familiar with that. And the whole Rumah Abu is basically when we worship our ancestors, we use the joss stick, and the ashes from the joss stick is what we see as Abu. Yeah. So this is why we basically call our ancestral homes Rumah Abu. And I think Annie still has a Rumah Abu, which is still quite the center of the family in terms of all the festivals and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, Bapak David, our ancestral home is in Melaka, and kita tak simpan abu dalam rumah. Sehari sebelum Temaru, kita semua balik kumpul kat rumah abu. My mak bapa, saudara, mak saudara, bapa saudara, sepupu terdekat semua lah, immediate family. Tengah hari kita semayang, cia nenek moyang, teriak nama jorang. Lepas tu kita lepas semayang, kita minta jorang popi kita supaya kita murah rezeki. Lepas tu kita nanti makan tengah hari, tapi makan malam is the best, the reunion dinner, sebab semua sudah balik dari Kuala Lumpur, Singapura semua, Sarawak semua, laujat sekali tau. Buka 5 tok, 3 tok, sama kita punya cucu, cicit semualah. Lama tak jumpa, ada banyak cerita. Wahi betul. Tapi tahun ni tak dapat lah, tak meriah pasal tak boleh balik, tak boleh sebab COVID kan. So taklah balik semua. Okey. Itulah.
Yalah. It's like, and that, I mean, that's the life of the culture, right? This is, your Rumah Abu and gathering for festivals, your birthdays, yeah, ancestral worship and whatnot. It's like, and I remember my mama used her favorite term was, kita semua suka say rame-rame laujet. Yeah, so this is really sort of like what we basically do, or very much part of our culture. Yeah. Okay. So I have here a list of some of the publications basically. Yeah, from the 1880s to the 1950s, and this pretty much, I guess, shows sort of like the peak of Peranakan culture. Yeah, this is the time when the Peranakan sort of like became rich from tin mining, from rubber, right? It's like so this was basically sort of like the peak, and you can sort of like see how these publications were basically I guess kind of like alive and vibrant at that time. Yeah, it's like the Great Depression was the first thing that kind of like crippled the Peranakan's wealth, and then of course with your Second World War that pretty much decimated their wealth. Yeah, so from the Second World War onwards, it's like you just see the Peranakans in decline, and in fact, it's the Sikit, the newcomers who actually do better with the Second World War and have sort of like done better than the Peranakans after that. Yeah, so you can sort of like see how these publications during that time was sort of like done. Yeah. So newspapers, we had readerships as far as Bangkok, Semarang, Tanjung Pinang, Kuching, and Labuan. Yeah, you have your Straits Chinese Herald or your Surat Khabar Peranakan, which started in 1894. Bintang Timor also in 1894. Your Khabar Selalu in 1924. Yeah, and we have translated works basically from Chinese. Okay, and this is the thing about the Straits. It's like, unlike Indonesia, who has a longer history of Peranakans, it's like there are Peranakans who have actually contributed to literary achievements in Indonesia. But then in the Straits, it's like, mostly we have just had, translated works from Chinese, and these are the translated works.
Bapak
Yeah,
David,
so Gong
earlier,
Kiasi, which was published in 1889. Yes.
earlier,
Sorry.
Bapak David, yeah, earlier you mentioned that Baba Malay Patois is a spoken language. Are these newspaper publications fully written in Baba Malay Patois or a mixture of both? That means apart from spoken, can it be written?
Yes, it's like, so it would be a bit formal. Probably more formal than the written form. Yeah. So it's not totally spoken. Yeah, it's like so there would be sort of like a formal side to the when I guess it's written. It's like, so but it would still be basic enough to sort of like follow. Yeah, it's these other translated works were from Chinese classics. I think I have gone through Schillerber's New Testament, and even that I found that was actually quite formal. But I would think that the newspapers would be quite basic. Yeah, so that most people would understand that. The translated works, the cerita dahulu kala namanya Ngobiang atau Orang Lima Bini were like 6 volumes. Yeah, it was published in 1891. Cerita dahulu kala namanya Samkok. This is very popular. Or Tiga Negeri Beberang. Had like 30 volumes, okay, and that was published around 1992. That's 1895, saying 1892. Yeah, and then Cerita Dulu Kala namanya Botan Yongchu was published in 1950. Then we have magazines like your Bintang Peranakan, The Storyteller, right, in the 1930s, and also pantun books and song books, your Pantun Campur Bawo, which was your variety of Malay quatrains, yeah, in 1908. Nyanyian and extra turns and pantun special extra turn songs in 1930. Okay, so these and then I guess like I said, after the war it kind of like just died down, right? It's like, we have kind of a revival going on, and I will kind of go into that a bit later. Yeah, so this is sort of like the publications that we've had in the Straits. Okay. Okay, so going into sort of like our pronunciation. Yeah, now words with ending with AL, AR, and AS. These words are pronounced with an S sound. Yeah, so kapal becomes kape to us. It's like, we'll say kape terbang and not kapal terbang. Yeah. Besar becomes besar, panas becomes pane. Yeah, it's like, so these are our peculiarities. It's like, so we don't say keluar, we say keluar. We don't say seluar, we don't say seluar, we say seluar. Yeah. And then the AI sound at the end will become your AY sound. Okay, so like kedai will become kedai, ramai will become ramai will become ramai. Getting mixed up here. Yeah, and then your AU sound will be the O sound. So things like pisau will become piso, kalau will become kalau. Yeah. So when I was actually taking Malay classes, I realized that we were actually mispronouncing all our Malay words. Yeah. So I came home and I was talking to Mama. I was asking Mama, we were like, Mama, mana pisau? And then kenapa? It's like Mama was going like, pisau. Apa lu anak Melayu It's like, so I had to basically be very conscious after that, to be pronouncing everything the Peranakan way. Iso, seluar. Yeah, it's like mau pergi kedai, it's like and not pronounce it the Malay word, the Malay way. Okay, so the other thing is that the H sound is often silent, like the French, yeah. So we don't say hari, we'll actually say ari instead of hari. And quite often we'll also drop the last letter of the word. So like manis, we will say mani instead of manis, right? Kencing mani instead of kencing manis. So these are, you know, our peculiarities. Okay, so abbreviations, yeah, it's like, you know, this is Baba efficiency for you. Why use more syllabuses than necessary? Yeah, so for Malay, apa macam becomes amcam to us. Yeah, apasal becomes apase. Sorry, apa pasal becomes apasal or apase. Yeah, bawa datang becomes watang. Bawa pergi becomes wapi. Buat apa becomes buat apa. Punya becomes mia. Sudah becomes sua. Tak boleh becomes tak le. Tak usah becomes tak usah. Ini becomes ni. And itu becomes tu. Yeah, so this is again sort of like, you know, how we say things, and yeah, we just abbreviate everything. It's like, you know, watang lah tu barang. It's like, you know, and not have too many syllables than necessary. Yeah. Okay. And then we have your personal pronouns here. Yeah. So we use gua and lu. Oh, Celia, it's like you. Celia has a question, or someone has a.
No,
Okay.
so Cedric was saying that, you know, some of us do not change the AL to air, like apasal and sambal, so you don't say sambe, for example, or some people anyway. That was his comment.
Well, yeah. Of course, there are exceptions, right? Like usually sambal, we'll say sambal. It's like, you know, but some people do as well, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's also we kind of know and understand that. Yeah, it's like, you know, so of course there are exceptions. Gua and lu is something that we use. Yeah, it's like, and unlike the Malay, so we don't have mereka, kami, kamu. It's like, you know, is your basic gua and lu, which is basically from Hokkien. Yeah.
Yeah, and Vivian also.
Is there something?
There was another message from Vivian also to say that her late mom left a message with a Malay staff one day. Suruh dia pergi beli pisang hijau, and he was stumped. I've never heard of such that type of pisang, he said. Pisang hijau.
Well, exactly.
Pisang hijau, like, you know, I guess. Yeah.
We don't say hijau, right? We say hijau. Like, yeah. So again, it's like, you know, all these are our peculiarities, and I think that's actually closer to Indonesia. It's like, you know, and that's probably where it comes from.
Yeah, someone else was saying
your personal pronouns,
yeah, and someone else was also saying that in the north, that some people say sambai for sambal and akai for akal. So I guess to each his own.
Sambai, I think sambai is more Penang, isn't it? It's like yeah. So that,
yeah, so he says up north,
yeah.
Up north, yes.
Yeah, it's like so again, like, yeah, you know, you have all these variations. So anyways, it's like, you know, in terms of like gua and lu, that's very basic, and that's from Hokkien. Yeah, it's like, you know, so I is gua. It's like, you know, but if you're talking to someone older than you, or you know, an elderly person, you need to be more formal, right? So that's when you actually use saya, or you use your name. Yeah, and you is of course you. Yeah, and if it's plural, it's lu orang or lorang. Yeah, he or she is dia. It's like and in the plural form, it will be dia orang or jorang. Yeah. We is kita. It's like, you know, and sometimes, you know, the K gets replaced with a T. Okay, it's like, you know, I think I've heard my mom say the pitting instead of the pitting. Yeah, kita instead of kita. It's like yeah, but we don't use mereka or kami like the Malays do. Yeah, so this is again sort of like, you know, the peculiarities with our Patois. Yeah, so now our Patois is basically in Hokkien syntax. Yeah, it's Malay, but it's in Hokkien syntax, and this is why it's interesting. Is there something else, Celia?
No. Go ahead.
Somebody commented.
No, just now when we're talking about.
Your hand is raised.
Oh, sorry, I didn't put it down. That's all. Go ahead.
Carry on, David.
Okay. So the so essentially it's Malay but in Hokkien syntax. Yeah, it's like, you know, so I have some examples here. So gua mia rumah or gua punya rumah. So in Hokkien it will be gua echu, right? It's like, you know, the Malays will say rumah saya. Yeah, which is again you know, quite different. Yeah, so sini mia orang, citau elang. Yeah, orang yang di sini is how the Malays would say it. Yeah, so you can see how different our patois really is. Belum kahwin ya time. So in Hokkien it will be ia boleh kiak hun AC. Yeah, it's like, so semasa belum kahwin. Gua mia kawan mia rumah. It's like, so in Hokkien it's like gua pay you echu. So rumah kawan saya. It's like, you know, the Malay is very different, right? It's like, which is why the Malays will kind of like laugh at us when they hear us, because it's kind of a cute form of Malay. Yeah, dia pakai pekau kasi gua terperanjat. So in Hokkien, ijang hoa chua. Yeah, but in Malay they will say pakainya memeranjatkan saya. Yeah, so another one will be dia beli tu baju kasi gua. Ibu hinya sah gua. Right? It's like, you know, dia membeli baju itu bagi saya. So you can sort of like see how different Baba Malay is in comparison to Malay. Okay, so here are some idiomatic sayings and expressions, and I think this is kind of like the fun part where we actually sort of like see how graphic the language is. Yeah, it's like, you know, and how the Peranakans express certain things, what are certain nuances and what are certain things that are important to the Peranakan. Right? So macam itu laut sedap sampai nyo lalu pun tak sedih. Yeah, it's like, you know, so I think that sort of like really shows us the Nyonya imagination in terms of how important the mother-in-law is. Yeah, it's like
David,
it's like, did you have something?
Ya, David, selalu sebelum kita orang makan, kita selalu teriak new makan. Tapi pasal lauk tu terlalu syok, lagi-lagi kalau kita makan sama tangan dengan sambal belacan, ulala, tu pasal new lalu kita pun tak sedih. Okay, David.
Pasal lah, it's like, you know, so mampus, right? It's like, you know, niulu lalu tu tak sedih. It's like, you know, you really need to be attending to her. It's like, so this shows, you know, how much the food culture is so much part of our culture. Yeah, that you would have sayings like this. It also shows how important, you know, your nyo is and how matriarchal she is. Yeah. Another, I don't know. It's like, you know, maybe some of you actually would recognize or understand some of these sayings. It's like, you know, does anyone recognize or can perhaps explain some of these sayings? Pernah dengar tak? No one, Celia?
No.
Okay. So the next one I have there is Sien pukul tambo lagi ada salah. It's like Sien. So Sien is a Hokkien word for God, right? It's like so if a god can make a mistake in beating the drums, like what more humans? Yeah. So this again, you know, sort of like I mean, Malay would never say it that way. Yeah. So again, very unique to us. Terima kasih ayam berak kampung. Yeah, so again, it's like, you know, instead of thank yous, it's like, you know, I get kicked from a shoe. It's like that's sort of what the expression is saying. This is one of my favorite ones that my mama used to say. It's like, you know, when my sister and I kind of like remembered it, we were just laughing away. Jin buang anak niya tempat, right? So if it's really out in the boonies, remote somewhere, it's like, you know, that's the place where only the jinns will go to buang anak. Yeah, so you can sort of like see how graphic you know, and the metaphors that I use are really quite interesting. Yeah. Another term is, you know, cekik telampung senang. It's like, you know, you have your Nyonya Karang. It's like, you know, who will maki somebody. It's like, lu ingat gua cekik telampung senang. It's like, you know, or have nothing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, David, I can relate to that.
I have to attend to you.
David, I can relate to that. Hari tu tahu, kawan gua dia ajak gua buat kuih teh. Lepas tu gua cakap sama dia, lu ingat cekik senang bikin kuih teh. Nyonya punya banyak leceh tau. Banyak kerja. Lu kena buat tahu. Lu kena parut itu nane, masak nane, buat jam dulu. Lepas tu bila jam dah siap, baru kita uli tepung, terap acuan, taruh jam, buat tali, kepit, baru bakar dalam oven. Suar gua cakap, pergi beli saja. Dua tua-tua ni tak payahlah susah-susah. Makan sekejap saja. Bila mu bikin, leceh. Itu pasal jangan cekik senang. Okay,
Well,
David.
that's the thing, right? It's like, you know, everything kita buat is like, you know, is also labor intensive, ya bukan? It's like, you know, selalu macam banyak kang. Yeah, exactly. So another one, this I thought was hilarious because I was actually listening to a sermon online in Singapore, and then this pastor actually used this term for branding. It's like, you know, he said, "Kena cap besi pandai." And I was just laughing away when I heard that. I'm just going like, you know, yeah, you literally sort of like, you know, kena cap besi pandai. It's like, so this is, you know, how graphic the language is, and really a lot of fun. I mean, you know, when you think about it, just the way we express ourselves. Yeah. Another one would be pantat orang buat muka. Yeah, so it's like, you know, you're not giving credit where credit is deserved. It's like, you know, yeah. So again, you can sort of like see how graphic, even crude, right? Which is why sometimes, you know, people sort of like say it's very coarse, but you know, it's basic, and this is again sort of like, you know, what the language is about, because it's Bahasa Melayu, right? But I think we also need to be careful, because I've been told that with the Malays, it's like pantat may mean something else. So we might want to sort of like, you know, keep that to ourselves, yeah, or be conscious when we have Malay company.
Ya, jaga-jaga.
Other expressions is like, you know,
Kena jaga-jaga cakap, David. Nanti kena sentar mulut dengan cili padi. Carut nanti.
ya kena ganyek cili, ya. It's like, you know, kita mencarut-carut ni. So, yeah, but well, I mean, it's like, you know, that there is also that crude side to the language. Yeah, it's like, you know, it can get quite graphic as well. Yeah, but I also have a list of expressions here. It's like that we kind of like to use, which is also, you know, I think quite funny in a way. Orang ada-ada, right? So when we say, you know, people who are really rich, it's like, you know, jurang orang ada-ada, right? Kita orang miskin, orang yang tak ada. Yeah. And then this one I think is hilarious, anak dara kacwa. Yeah. So to actually describe pre-puberty girls, the term used is actually anak dara kacwa, okay? Which I think is really quite graphic and quite cute. Gambling addicts are described as tai judi. Yeah. And then if someone is, you know, really young and inexperienced, we will call that person budak tai. Yeah. It's like so yeah, so these are some of the terms. It's like, did you have something to say about budak tai, Nya Aini?
Oh, budak taik macam kita dulu jorang ni mental lah, dia tak experience. So kita panggil je budak taik.
Yeah.
Macam kita orang ni dah tua-tua ni, kita dah masak asam garam. So kita juga kena belajar lah lagi kita. Kita makan garam dulu. Banyak pun kena belajar, inexperience. Jorang ni inexperience.
Exactly. So it's like you know, they will usually maki, right? Lu budak taik, lu jangan cakap banyak. Kita makan garam lebih lagi lu, yeah. So it's like, you know, so that's sort of like, you know, how the term is being used. And then you have gemuk gedempong, right, which is really quite cute. And then this one is like pak kuntau, somersault, yeah. It's like, you know, the longest time it was like, you know, I had not heard that, and then somehow it came up with one of my cousins, and we were just laughing away in terms of in terms of, you know, these Hokkien words that we kind of adapt. So Pak Kuntao, Kemuching for feather duster, yeah. So yeah, so these are, you know, all our Hokkien words. Okay, so days of the week, it's like, you know, again, you see Baba efficiency here, right? It's like, you know, we don't have Isnin, Selasa, Rabu, and all that. It's basically Hari Sabtu to Hari Enam, right? Monday to Saturday, we just count the numbers 1 to 6, and then Sunday, it's Hari Minggu, yeah? Whereas, you know, the Malays will have Isnin and whatnot. In fact, now it's like at work, I often have to really think in you know, which day it is, because I'm so used to Hari Sabtu to Hari Minggu. Yeah, so this is again sort of like what we do with the Baba Patois. And then here your Hari Bulan, yeah, days of the month, and we basically follow the Hokkien way because of Chinese New Year. Right, so from Cheit to Cheko is Cheit to Chapko is basically your Chinese New Year. Yeah, so you have Cheit, Cheji, Chesa right up till Chapko. Yeah, it's like, you know, and then it's like, you know, kalau apa orang
Jorang kalau makan sayur
also is
Cheit Chako.
Yeah, Chei Chakgo as well, right? So that's again sort of like, you know, part of why why we have, you know, these terms, right? And again, you know, you see the lack in Malay for these things, which is why basically Hokkien is just taken in to sort of like describe these things. And also it's like, you know, you will have your Semayang and whatnot, and your Cheit and Chakgo as well. So so you need to sort of like use these terms. Yeah. So here are your Chinese zodiac signs in Baba Malay, right? So Tahun Tikus is the rat. Yeah. So Kerbo is for the ox. We don't say kerbau like the Malays do, right? And Arimo is for tiger. Now, you know, I also had this one time when I had a research assistant, and it took her like 10 minutes to figure out what Arimo was. It was like, you know, so my thinking was just, you know, rambling away, and we're talking about Arimo. And then after 10 minutes, she goes like, "You mean Harimau?" And we just laughed because it's like, yeah, you know, it was just second nature to us to say Arimo, right? It's like, you know, and we didn't really realize that, and she took like 10 minutes to figure out that, you know, it was actually Harimau. Yeah. The rabbit is kucing Belanda to us. We don't say anak like the Malays do. Yeah. Dragon is naga. Ule is snake. Yeah. And I also have another anecdote with my cousin who was in school, and in her Malay class, the Malay teacher wrote on the board ULAR, and he said ula, right? So my cousin put up a hand, cikgu, salah, ule. It's like, so the cikgu just smiled because, you know, they kind of familiar with the peranakans and their peculiarities, right? And then kuda, which is horse, kambing for goat, monyet for monkey, ayam for rooster, anjing for dog, and of course babi for pig. Yeah. Okay, it's like, you know, so I'm just wrapping up here to sort of like, you know, tell you guys about publications, I guess, in the last 20 years or so, that has been trying to kind of like revive the language. So William Wee actually has written a couple. It's like, you know, he started out with Masculo, these Baba conversational gems. It was published in 1993, and it's actually a good investment. Okay, it's like, you know, for those of you who want to sort of like remember the Patois, it's like, you know, he's got all these sayings compiled in the book, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit going through it, because it brings back memories and also sort of like our very peculiar, funny, and hilarious graphic ways of saying things. Yeah, so this book I think is a good investment. Then in 2006 he came out with your Baba Malay Dictionary. Yeah, and then of late this person Kenneth Chan has been publishing these books that are published with the Gunung Sayang, and they are basically sort of like books to help teach the language. And I've actually gone through his first one, which is called Mari Cakap Baba Malay, I think. It's like, you know, this one is his latest one. So the first one is out of print, and so they basically sort of like revised it to this. I think the first one's no longer available. So Baba Malay for everyone is what you can buy now, and it's good because it's like, you know, it's a very comprehensive and it also sort of like brings certain highlights about the culture. Yeah, so I think the book is very well put together. And then they've also got a workbook, yeah, for this. I believe there are also Malay classes that they conduct with these books. So you can actually go check that out if you're interested in taking some of these classes, yeah. And then last of all, we have this book that Kenneth also wrote. It's called Cerita Baba. They are short stories. So what he has done is he's basically written short stories in Baba Malay, and this is in the spoken form. Yeah, it's like, you know, it's actually true to the spoken form. And then on the other side, he has the English translation of that. So yeah, so for those who do not know Baba Malay, it's like, you know, you can always refer, or if you want to improve your Baba Malay, it's like, you know, it's a good way to sort of like go back and forth between English and Baba Malay. Yeah, so this is what I have for you guys, I guess, kind of like an overview of of our Patois. It's like and what has been happening of late. So Kamsia very much for spending your afternoon in coming to this talk. I hope, you know, it kind of like brought back memories.
Baba David,
Yeah.
we need to summarize and say that earlier on you said you put up the question, are we a generation too late in beginning to interact in Baba Malay? So maybe some of the audience may give your suggestions.
Yes,
Any
it's like, you know, I think that would be good to hear from.
Yeah, because the is dying out lang. So you want to revive the thing. So you have some suggestions from the audience.
Maybe you can keep. Maybe you can keep going until we get some response.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
David, you want to give your suggestions?
Well, yeah, it's like, you know, I mean, where are we? It's like, I think, like, more and more, I think we are sending our children to Chinese schools. It's like, you know, everyone is recognizing how important Chinese is. It's like, I think that's one of the reasons why we are also not speaking Baba Malay as much. Yeah, it's like, I know my sister in Australia, it's like, you know, my nieces blame their parents for not teaching them Baba Malay. It's like, you know, because they use it as a secret language between the two of them so that the kids wouldn't understand. Yeah, it's like, I mean, how did we learn? We learned because our parents spoke to us, our grandparents spoke to us in Malay, and that's the easiest time to learn when we were growing up, right? And I think that's very important. It's like, I think some parents who come from like two different cultures, it's like they make it a point to like, you know, speak to their children. Yeah, if one is Spanish or whatever, you know, they will just communicate to their children in Spanish just so that they can actually transmit the language to the younger generation, right? So I don't know what most of you guys think about where the language is. It's like, you know,
yeah, but David, I think that we need to cakap hari-hari, you know. Then you will become an expert lah, you know. Then like what I do and talk with my husband, and also think that international convention is a session. When we have our international convention, we can have a session where we can mingle and talk Baba Malay Patois amongst our fellow members. Nowadays, when they send the children to Chinese school, they learn Mandarin and not a word of the Baba Malay Patois. Maybe when we makan malam, dinner or what, we can speak and then when we cakap selalu, so we will not be pelat lah. So that we can sustain our language lah.
Oh, exactly. It's like, you know, I try to use as much of it as I can, right? So anyone who sort of like knows Malay or understands Malay, I usually will try to communicate with them in Baba Malay. I even try to text in Baba Malay, right? Just to basically remember and also practice. Yeah, so using it, I think is very important. In fact, I think one of my nieces is trying to learn. So whatever opportunities I get, I'm texting her in Baba Malay, right? And it actually helps her because she's going like, oh, you know, yeah, I actually get to read and to see sort of like, you know, how you construct a sentence, etc. It's like, you know, and hence it helps her to basically learn the language. Yeah, so definitely I think we need to use it as much as possible. Yes.
Okay.
So,
are there any more questions? Otherwise,
are there
wrap it up.
comments that people are?
Yeah. So Baba Hu Ching has said maybe one way is to play main jerky. She said you can talk Baba for at least 4 or 5 hours when you're playing jerky.
Oh yeah. But not everybody tahu main
Yes,
jerky tau, Baba.
Well, see, this is the thing as well. It's like, yeah, you know, so we don't mind Turkey as much anymore, and maybe we should. It's like, you know, do all these things so that we can keep the culture alive.
Yeah. And Nyonya Jacqueline was saying nothing is too late, just start using it so that the language and culture is not forgotten. Yes, Nya, I'm sure that's what you are doing as well. And Nya Vivian was saying that as a feminist, I've always used the term peranakan Patois instead of Baba Malay, because Baba Malay ignores the contribution of the women and it's obviously our mother tongue. That's another comment. Chinny said, to be honest, I think it's a bit late already because I never learned about this culture. Today I'm here because I'm doing a school assignment. If we don't have this assignment, I might be still unaware of this culture, and I learned a lot of knowledge today. So thank you, Chinny, for joining us. Carol Chan.
Like a sad reality, right? Because it's like, you know, there's just so few. In fact, you know, Nala Lee, when she was doing her PhD, it's like she was introduced to me by Peter Wee. And so, you know, she happened to be in town and I was also in Singapore. So Peter Wee sort of like, you know, had us, you know, meet at the Katong Antique House there. And then, you know, we were just talking, and then she was going like, she was taping all our conversations so that, you know, she can also learn and record and whatnot. So I told her, I'm going like, you know, actually I'm spending the afternoon with my, you know, Tan Tock Seng relatives. Like, you know, do you want to join us? It's like, and you know, we will basically be going on in Baba Malay. It's like, so she actually joined for the afternoon, and she was so thankful after that. She goes like, you know, there's just so few opportunities where people are just speaking, you know, in our patois so often. So, you know, she had good material, I guess, that she taped from the afternoon. And yeah, that's the sad reality. It's like, you know, so
yeah, and
so I don't know how much or what we really can do to sort of like keep it alive.
Yeah, so I think everyone has their own ways of doing so. Nya Carol was just saying, actually, when we meet others like us, we tend to speak the patois, haha, non-stop. Actually, quite good to chit chat this way, as my kids will go blank when they were young. With MCO, we meet less. My kids now I speak to them as it's not a secret language as before. Yeah, and Nya Lily Lim was saying should have Sunday classes for children to be exposed to Peranakan culture. So maybe something that PPB and KLS can think about if we have enough people to come and join a Sunday class. Yeah, Julia was saying, yes, when Ba David and I text, it's Baba Malay, and I do learn some now and then. And yeah, Carol, thanks, David, and all. It's good to refresh ourselves with this, as some words used before may be forgotten. Cynthia Yo from Singapore may have more shows on TV as well to expose the language. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's all the comments.
Okay, that's great. It's like yeah, what else can we do? It's like, I mean, unfortunately, it's like, you know, we don't have all our grandparents and all the bidis and whatnot around anymore, where we basically just have to speak to them in Malay, right? So yeah, and now it's too convenient to speak.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
It was really refreshing, you know, going through the thing, and a lot of those things have come back to me since many years back. We hardly talked much after coming to KL and working, and also not interacting much on this. It's really interesting, and I think if you want to promote this thing, the language that we have, to prevent it from dying off, perhaps one way is also to have a lot of activities, interactions, you know, organizing functions, like Annie mentioned, conference and things like that, you know, and getting together. I think that's where they get a chance to talk, because nowadays parents also hardly talk to their children in our Patois, you know, language. We more or less speak in English or some other language, you know, quite related to their education. So thank you so much. I think, and also all the organizers and participants for putting this thing together. So grateful to you all. Thank you.
Most welcome, Kamsia lah. Okay, I hope that all of you had enjoyed today's session, and sure that many of you had forgotten or not even heard of some of the words. Nevertheless, we do hope that today's session had enlightened you all a bit about our Baba Malay Patois, or like our Peranakan Patois, as Vivian said. We would like to thank all of you for spending your time tuning in. Our next virtual session will be on Saturday, 10th of April at 4 p.m. Please keep a date with us, yeah? Before we end, I would like to say share a pantun by Baba William Gui.
Hold on, Annie.
I'm waiting for you to put up the
Yeah, okay, sorry.
All right,
I'm
all right.
Trying to share.
Thank you all for listening and for your suggestions.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. You will pick it up. Try to organize more.
And for the invitation to talk this.
Yeah. Terima kasih, Kamsia. Okay, the pantun by Baba William Gui. Buku-buku Baba dulu kala ditulis dalam cakapan Baba. Cakapan ini janganlah lupa, dia harta nenek moyang kita. Translation: the Baba texts of an age ago were written in the language of the Baba. Let us then not forget this language, for they are the treasures of our ancestry. Okay, I have an announcement. Our mama's recipe book is back and ready for orders. For any orders, please follow the web link here, as you can see on the screen. You can get in touch with us through this link.
So you can just go to our PPBNKLS website, and the link is there. You can just make your orders through this link, or just contact any of us. If you know any of the committee members, we will be able to help you, or it will be on our Facebook page as well. Okay.
Okay. Kamsia, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Malaki, set a date with us
Thank you.
10 March, yeah?
Thank you.
10 April, sorry. Pasal Sol.
Kamsia Tachi.
Welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you.
Happy
Bye.
you joined us. I hope you
Bye-bye.
learned.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kamsia Tachi. Tachi Annie.
Ya, jumpa lagi.
Thank you.
Kamsia.
Thanks for coming. Shout out to Lily as well from Bangkok, Thailand, who joined us. I think there's somebody from,
all the way from
Yeah.
Bangkok.
and I think we have someone from Indonesia as well who's here.
Ya. Terima kasih.
Margaret.
Thank you, Tachi, Celia. Thank you, Baba,
Thank
David.
you. Thank you, everybody. Nice to see so many people here on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for spending your time.
I don't know why my music's not working, but I'm supposed to have music. Whoa. Cancel that. How's my music not working? Can you guys hear music?
No.
That's weird. I don't know why. I'm supposed to have some music for you guys while you're hanging around, but we'll stay on for about 5 minutes or so. If people want to keep chatting or ask anything, please do so. Otherwise, thank you so much. Thanks, Pa David and Annie, for a great session.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
We would like to keep this language alive.
Why is it not working? That's better. Now you can joget too.
We are looking forward when the CMCO is over and the COVID vaccine is available to everybody, and then we will have more interesting functions. Yeah, we are thinking of doing some other functions, but unfortunately because of the COVID, we have to do virtually.
I think from the session, we could see that there was quite a lot of people who are still using the language. So hopefully we can pass that on to some of the even younger ones in the generation,
Yeah.
to keep this going, man.
Yeah, we got to keep our this thing alive, our language, Patois alive.
Yeah.
It's the young ones lah. I'm just going like, you know, they have to sort of like come on board. They have to sort of like figure a way how it will make sense to them to keep the language and to sort of like pass it on to the next generation. So
that's right. I think what we need to do is to try and make this a trendy language, and then we'll see how well they take to this. You know, anything trendy, you put it on TikTok, maybe you might get some reactions from it. And in case, Annie and David, in case you missed it, I think Chinny might be from one of the universities, and she says that she wants to come and do an interview and get you guys to talk about the language and culture for their university as well. So hopefully she'll get in touch with us at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
yeah,
well, if she gets in touch with you, you can just pass her my
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
And someone, I don't know whose iPad, but he says it's a well-researched piece, David. Thanks, Nancy, for being here this afternoon. So I think
thank you very much.
Yeah. There's lots of other comments before as well. So Margaret B just now from I think she's from Indonesia. She said, terima kasih untuk penjelasan mengenai Baba Malay. Sebenarnya orang Indonesia setiap hari bicara seperti begini, tapi enggak tahu bahawa ini adalah Baba Malay. So I guess she relates to a lot of the words that we use as they are normal Indonesian words as well.
Well, I think we have more links with Indonesia than we realize.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, because it's an older form of Malay than sort of like what Bahasa Malaysia is today.
Yeah. Okay. So shall we call it an afternoon?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, thanks, Baba, David, and Annie. Okay, see you guys soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.